Hello.
Well, hey, David,
Hey.
I'm in the dark here. Let me get a little bright.
Yeah, you have a big white rectangle cutting your head in half.
See, I'm on mute. Hi there.
Hi.
Thank you for joining. I see Barbara's joining, and we're going to get started in just a moment. Dave, thank you as always for being super prompt. Okay, it is it's 3 o'clock, and thank you for being here. I'm going to call the meeting to order and call the roll of committee members. Commissioner Dave Cahill.
Here.
Commissioner Barbara McKenzie.
Here.
Commission Chair Deborah Doyle. You're on mute, Deborah.
Okay, sorry. Here.
And Commission Vice Chair Thomas Hauser.
Here.
Meeting is called to order. Pursuant to California Government Code Section 54953, all votes during this teleconference meeting shall be taken by roll call. The next item is public appearance. Members of the public who wish to address the commission regarding matters not on the agenda should request recognition at this time. And this would also be the moment when we would read any messages. So, Jen, do we have any members of the public who would like to address the commission?
I don't see any member of the public here today, and I did not receive any written messages for this meeting either.
Okay, thank you very much. Then we are going to go right to our discussion items. And the first is item 4.1, financial reports for the month of April. So just a quick reminder, and Myrna, in just a moment, I'm going to call on you to please give us a quick overview of the reports. But in terms of benchmarks, we are from a revenue picture, we've just received the bulk of the second property tax payment. Because our sales tax is 2 months behind, this report reflects 8 months of sales tax receipts. So we would be expecting to be at roughly 67% of our revenue budget for sales tax, very close to 100% for property tax. From an expense picture, we're 10 months into the year. So we would be expecting expenses to be running at or below 83% of the budgeted amounts. With that said, Myrna, could you please provide a quick overview of the summary report and any significant changes that you'd like to draw the committee's attention to? And you are on mute.
Well, as you mentioned, our revenues are coming in steady. The property tax is pretty much on target, and we still have 2 more months to come in for straggling payments that are made. And there is one category of property tax that comes in May, about 500,000. So we're pretty much on target. As you mentioned, under property tax, under sales tax, on average, we're bringing in about 1.2 million, and peaking, with holiday revenues that come in 2 months late, and they're posted on February. So, and April is March and April tend to be the lower months of receipts. So just looking historically, that should jump a little bit in May and June. But again, we would have to accrue those months and they would be estimates given our historical trends. But we're very close, and so we're hoping that we'd go ahead, we'd come very close to what we budgeted for sales tax.
Good.
Under what is helping also under expenditures is that we are projected to spend less than we budgeted in total expenditures, even excluding capital expenses, which we know some of these projects will not be completed this year and will be rolled over into next fiscal year. So there'll be considerable savings there. But under the total services and supplies, we are also underspending. And so we will be within budget in terms of our revenues and our expenditures reflecting within our received actual revenues. So we're on target. We're working on year-end activities to ensure that we bill everything that we need to outside organizations for our receivables and capture all of our expenditures within fiscal year 22. So we're moving ahead with along with our year-end activities. And so those are the highlights under the summary report. You can also see that in April, there was an adjustment under other contract services.
Yes.
That is an adjustment that had been under the special report of other contract services. And we were able to post that adjustment, which was our Verizon wireless services that were incorrectly posted under other contract services and now reflected in the appropriate category of wireless services. So that made a correction if you look at the percentages under those two line items.
Yeah, that was great to see. Thank you. I know that's been in the works for some time. You and I had a discussion offline about the rents and leases number. Would you just comment on that briefly for the committee?
Sure, that you can see more in detail under the property tax schedule. As Chair Elkind mentioned last month, that we're close, over 90% spent against the budgeted amount of $650,000 in building leases. And so looking at it more closely and analyzing our current lease agreements, basically our budget is lower than it should be because in the current year and a couple of years back, the budget amount did not reflect the annual increases in our lease agreements that are built in.
So I'm gonna just restate that for a second, and please tell me if I'm saying this correctly. The dollars that have been spent are correct and appropriate. The budget figure was below where it should have been because when the budget was set last year, the lease agreements hadn't been fully analyzed to build in their annual rate increases. Is that correct?
Yes. So if you
Okay.
can see here, it's very tiny, but under building leases, there we go. As you can see, $650,000 is budgeted for that line item. And through April, we have spent $590,000+. So
Right.
we've been paying our rent as per our lease agreements. And we just budgeted less than we really need to be. So for fiscal year 23, you will see an adjustment to that to increase our budget for next fiscal year under this line item.
Okay, and also on the summary page, and I guess this is a question for Director Hammond, but I was disappointed to see that in the capital expenses line, we continue to be spending well less than what had been budgeted. And I know projects have run into delays and so on, but Ann, could you just give us a little update on this situation? And is there any hope that in the months ahead, we'll be able to proceed at a quicker pace with some of these projects that have been kind of held up?
Yes,
on-
the
yeah,
Guerneville project, as you know, is,
No, you're on mute now. There you go.
okay, thank you. The Guerneville project is moving along and that will be completed before the end of this fiscal year. The Petaluma project is the one that has the most, that's where most of the capital expenses have been held up because it's a very large project. That will not be completed, obviously, before the end of the fiscal year. That's delayed longer than that. But the other things, anything that is under our control, yes, we'll be able to move at a good pace with that. So as soon as the budget has passed and we'll be getting into the next fiscal year, we'll start the Healdsburg refresh and help me out, staff. What was the other one we're going to do this year, this coming year? Healdsburg and anyway, yes, we'll be able to move quickly on anything that does not require permitting and legal processes through our JPA partners. Does that help with your question?
Yes, it does. And I realize this has been out of our control. It's just, and from a budgeting perspective, it's great that we have, a surplus, but it's frustrating because I know we're eager to go ahead with these projects and our patrons are eager to see them. And there's only so much talking we can do. I want to open up the financial reports. Any questions from any members of the committee? I have one, but I'm going to hold it till others have gone. Barbara, I see your hands up. You are on mute.
This probably isn't the right time to ask this question, but I wanted to ask a question about budgeting going forward. Would you let me know when it's a good time to ask that question?
Well, I don't see a specific place in the agenda. Why don't you ask it now?
Okay. This morning, there was an article in the paper about Santa Rosa's, the city of Santa Rosa's budget process. And they're forecasting a 20% increase in their sales tax and a 9% increase in property tax. And of course, these things keep changing really quickly. But I wondered if our CFO could refresh us as to what numbers we're using for going forward for sales tax and property tax. My second question was, in the past, off and on, we've had projections for more years. And I noticed in this article that, they're talking about, they have projections for 5 years. And I wondered if we could, if we have thoughts, or maybe our CFO has plans to give us projections, farther out than than a year at a time, which I think would be helpful for planning, especially when you're talking about capital budgets and other things like that. So those two questions to our CFO, please. Thank you.
Sure. In projecting our sales tax, the process that we have used this year is to consult with our partners, the county partners, the tax collector, and also analyzing our historical figures. And when it comes to property tax, normally the county tends to be conservative when it publishes the projections for other, for the county and for other jurisdictions. And we won't get those until later this year, calendar year. And so we have to rely on our historical analysis as well as conversations with the tax collector. And Director Hammond and I met with them, and although tax collectors and assessors tend to be very conservative, we landed on a 3.4% increase on property tax, and with the caveat that that is still on a little on the conservative side. We have seen increases up to 4% from one year to the next. But the library administration wanted to lean in toward a more confidence in terms of the revenues that we will be receiving. And I feel that confident in that. If you look at our current, report in front of us, you see that we'll hit our revenues probably right on the nose in terms of our property tax. We're at 97%. And so we are confident that we will meet our budgeted figures in the current year. And if so, we believe that we will be able to meet our projection for next fiscal year. So again, to summarize, we used a 3.4% growth for fiscal year 23.
Was that for both property tax and sales tax?
No, that is for
Property.
that's for property tax.
Okay, and then the sales tax, what number do we use? Because they're talking about 9%, which is pretty extreme.
Yeah, so
That feels very aggressive to me. I mean, it would be
It is.
great if it increased, but I would hate to budget on the basis of a 9 or 10% increase.
yeah, so there we rely on HDL, which is a very well-known, reliable organization that analyzes sales tax trends nationally, statewide, regionally, and even drill down to the county level. And they're projecting that they're projecting a slowdown in sales tax. And trying to remember what I used. It was, I know I put it in my memo, but I can't remember. Right now, I can't remember what
Okay.
the figure was. Before the end of the meeting, I'll let you know. I'll look it up real quick.
Well, somebody's going to be real surprised at the end of the next budget year.
Well,
Either
yeah.
have your But in terms of the projections, in terms of giving us like 5-year projections, is that something that you're hoping to do, planning to do?
Oh, in
Barbara,
terms of
I have a
what-
question. I'm sorry, Myrna.
Oh, go ahead.
5-year projections on what, Barbara? What are you thinking we could or should be projecting 5 years out?
Just the overall budget projections. I mean,
Well, considering that we have a Proposition Y renewal that's going to be happening during that time, I would feel very uneasy on any kind of projection that would be taking us out that far. I'm not sure what benefit it would serve. What are you thinking would be the goal here?
well, I'm thinking that it's just a common practice to do more than a 1-year budget and to have projections further out in the, and if 5 years is too long, then perhaps we could have 3. But I think that's just a common practice in public agencies that you have more than a 1-year budget numbers that you're looking at.
So the sales tax growth we used is 2.6% on the current level. And that was based on that. I'm a little surprised that these the county, or is it the city or the county that's using these numbers?
The city of Santa Rosa.
Oh, okay. Because I understood from the tax collector that the county itself was using 3.4% for property tax. So we're in line with what the county is using. And of course, the city, depending on, what's driving their sales tax, they have their just reasonings for increasing it that much.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. And then, and just in terms of the projections, then I'll.
Projections, I do like a 3 to 5 year budget projection analysis. That would help, the policymakers, you, the commission, in terms of making decisions when you have a healthy fund balance and how you would like to use it. Administration for purposes of planning. And the library hasn't gotten there yet, but it is something that is on my wish list. Because it would help me personally as well to look at how we believe the trends for budget and trends for what our expenditures could be. And we're going in that direction, I believe, with all the planning that the library is doing with the capital improvement program, the reserves that you're setting, creating within the fund balance policy, and so you're definitely moving in the right direction. Also contemplating, your long-term unfunded liabilities and setting funds aside for that. So certainly the 5-year plan would add to that fiduciary responsibility and best practices that you're already going forward with.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Myrna. I have a question for you. Actually, I have a couple of questions, but I'm going to start with one line item, Myrna, and it appears both in the property tax and the sales tax reports. And let me preface this by saying, while I do have a couple of questions, they're all relatively small, given the fact that, as you've already stated, we're in very good shape regarding the budget overall. So I don't want anything to be misconstrued. But the item that I'm looking at is 51901. Which is telecommunication data lines. The property tax budget amount was $20,000 for the year. So far, we've spent year to date on the property tax report $112,000 and change. So we're at 500% of the budget year to date. On the sales tax report, we have, of course, the same line item. Here, the budget amount was $176,000. The year to date is 15,000 and we've only spent 9%. So my question is, is there maybe a coding error here? Or
No,
something?
there's no coding error. Again, this goes back to the lack of clarity on how to use property tax, how to use sales tax.
Okay.
And so there had been discussions going back and forth after the commission approved the budget, where these data line expenditures should be charged. So after the commission approved the budget, as you can see, it was then decided to instead charge these data lines under property tax. And I am not fully aware of all the details or justification around that. But again, it stems from that lack of clarity as to what is supposed to charge, what expenditures are best charged under property tax or sales tax. This kind of question is resolved with the new allocation of major revenues policy, and which is very clear on how the budget was developed for next year. So we should not be seeing these types of variances like this.
Okay. And I don't want to dwell on it unnecessarily, because it seems like there's a similar thing going on with some of the other line items. I was looking at things like janitorial services, maintenance, building and improvements, maintenance, parks and grounds. And, we're over in property tax, under in sales tax. I'm going to assume it's exactly this issue. It's not, I don't think it's worth investigating further here. I expect that we'll have clarity in next year's situation.
We'll have clarity next year. We're also going through year-end adjustments. And so we're reviewing some of these line items to make sure that we charge them appropriately and in the right line item versus, the one thing is property tax versus sales tax, and the other is, some of these maintenance, is it maintenance or is it capital? And we want to make sure that we're capturing them appropriately.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions. Any other members of the committee have specific questions about the financial reports? Okay, let's move on to the next item, which is 4.2, gifts and donations update and budget adjustment. This is on pages 18 and 19 of the packet. And Myrna, I'll let you take it away, please.
Okay. So it's been a couple of months also that I have brought to the attention, and the questions have been brought to my attention through the Finance Committee about the funds and donations fund. As you know, this fund is a combination of revenues. They are not property tax or sales tax. They are actually either small grants, funds from the Sonoma County Library Foundation, and friends groups. And the majority is of the activity is from the friends groups. The friends groups are also tracked individually so that we can, when we receive revenue from a specific friend group, we track it and code it to an account that is made for them specifically. And what the issue is here is, if you look at the monthly report, you can see that the revenue was approved at the time of the budget was approved at $80,000. And that expenditures were approved at $37,500. As I already said, there's a lot of activity around the friends, and both revenues and expenditures have exceeded what was approved during the budget time. And this table shows this. Actuals to date, revenues under Friends activity is 102,000, well, 97,000 plus pooled cash, $102,000, $378,000. We project that there'll still be donations coming in from the month of May and June, for about 37,000. So total, we best estimate is that we would be receiving $139,628. So for the year. So the variance between what we expect, 139,000, and what was approved is the difference is 59,000. So we're requesting to increase revenue to $59,628.77. On the expenditure side, again, what was approved was $37,500. What has been recorded in actuals under the fund is $37,500. But expenditures have been ongoing to keep up with the donations. And there's been, we project that an additional $102,129 will be spent. And so for a total of $139,629.
So Marina, just a quick question, and I hate to be nitpicky, but I feel like we're missing the headers to that second set of figures, right? Because the top set of figures, we see the budget approved, actual as of 5/12, projected donations until year end. Then the projected donations and the actuals are added together. In the bottom, it should be fiscal year budget 22 approved, actuals as of 5/12, projected expenses to year end, total actual plus projected expenses, and then the variance. Am I reading that correctly?
You're following my drift, Andy.
Yeah, okay. So got it. Thank you.
So the request is 102,129,000 increase in revenue.
Increase in expenses.
I'm sorry, expenses, yes.
All right. And now, question, this is a discussion item, but this is actually, you're actually looking for approval on this, aren't you?
A recommendation?
Yeah, is that the, Tom, are you thinking we should recommend, and then this would be on the agenda for the commission in June?
That's
Yes,
correct.
I think that's, the budget has to be changed by the commission.
Yes, okay. All right. This seems like a very straightforward request. Barbara, I see you have a hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question. When we've been bringing this up in the finance committee, questions about this, at least questions I've been bringing up are back to the report section that we've just went through, and there were, unfortunately, the pages aren't numbered here, but there's a big chunk on the second to the last page, and it's all about the beginning cash balances and the donations and the activity and so forth, and then these and it has the friends as well as a few other things. Is there a coordination between this thing that you have here, the budget adjustment, and that report that we look at every?
Yes, the numbers that I'm using for the budget approved and the actuals are from that report. So as you can see in the report, it shows that the revenue that was approved was 80,000. And it shows currently that it's 108,000 that
Right.
has been year to date, collected year to date. However, in going through this, there are some miscellaneous revenues in here. Like I said, there's a combination of revenues. And so I wanted to reflect the activity of the Friends so that we don't have to, we can continue to pay invoices and meet the intent of the donations without any delays.
So the budget adjustment just allows us to do that appropriately. This report and the fact that it has more detail on it and the Friends groups and all this kind of stuff, eventually we're going to have another report as that it's kind of a blending of these two or something, not a blending, but
so not a blending, but a separate report. So what I've come to learn is, as you can see, it's very clear here that in this fund there is a cash balance of $1.3 million.
right.
And so in the absence of a CFO and a lot of turnover, I've noticed some inconsistencies in following our gift policy. So, and there has not been a report in a very long time in terms of matching.
Yeah.
With our Friends groups and saying, okay, this is what we received. And the Friends could say, well, this is what we know we donated. Yes, it matches, great, move forward. Or if there are any changes or some delays in, spending some fund, if we ran into a bump in the road, we have room for discussion, and I think it's a healthy conversation to have. And so currently, staff is reconciling, starting with the current fiscal year, which will be easier because, here it is. This is what we've been receiving from the different funding sources. And we'll continue to work backwards every fiscal year so that we can come to a good understanding of what makes up that $1.3 million. So what I'm calling a reconciliation process.
And as part of that, you're talking about reports that would then go back to the Friends groups also with some more detail, I believe you said at one point.
Yes, because there are the library, as you know, holds regular meetings with the Friends groups, and the branch managers, have a good working relationship with the Friends groups, a day-to-day. So I think it's very appropriate to understand where we stand with the funds.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much.
Dave, I see you have a hand up.
Yeah,
And
Myrna,
Barbara,
I
if
want
you're
to.
done, could you put your hand down, please?
I really want Myrna to appreciate the work you and the staff are doing on this. I noticed as you pointed out that we've been short-staffed. So this is one of those continued updating of corrections and policies that is possible now that we have you on board. And I think we're now fully staffed in the Budget and Finance Department.
No.
So nope, and he's shaking his head. Okay.
No,
Better.
we're looking to hire an accounting manager, Dave.
Yeah, that's what I thought it had been completed. Guess not. Anyway, our financial statements continue to improve, and we'll never have anything that's exactly correct because this is a complex organization. But I'm feeling increasingly confident as I see these kinds of things moving ahead into our regular financial statements.
Yeah.
Great, thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Dave. So I am inclined to recommend to the full commission that we approve the budget adjustments that Myrna has requested. Is there an objection from anyone on the committee to doing that?
I
Okay.
have no objection.
Thank you very much. So let's move on to, thank you, Myrna. Let's move on to item 4. That was item 4.3, the request. Let's move on to item 4.4, update on the coding project. This is another one of those ongoing efforts that Dave was referring to. Myrna, how are you and the team doing on this?
Well, good. You saw one major coding reclassification, and we'll continue to make some additional coding adjustments. In particular, as the year end comes. There is one major project, as you all know, benefits have been charged, although we have positions that are charged to property tax and then other separate positions that are charged to sales tax, all the benefits have been recorded under the property tax. So we'll be going through a process for year end to make one adjustment to ensure that the benefits are allocated appropriately to sales tax. So you'll see one of those, and we'll continue to monitor, through the year end process.
Oh, that's great. That's great. We're really glad to hear that. Any questions or comments for Myrna? Seeing none. Okay. I want to move on to item 4.5. And I put this item on the agenda for us to discuss as a committee because of the question that was raised at the last commission meeting by Director Fred Engbarth. And the issue had to do with the support and consulting that our development manager, Craig Palmer, has been providing, and that we would like, hopefully, that he will be able to continue to provide to support foundation fundraising. And I know, Ann, you were going to reach out to our attorneys for an opinion on this. Do you have an update for us, please?
I don't have a formal written opinion on this. They had previously indicated that they felt there was no conflict of interest in development manager Palmer working with the foundation to assist them in their efforts on our behalf. It's not like he's, working for an outside organization that has no relevance to the library. And what he's doing with the foundation is similar to what has been done in the past with the Friends groups. Siri Tongjer, when she was with us, did a lot of work with our Friends groups to help them raise their capacity. So what we're looking at now, I expect to have the opinion from our attorneys this week, and I will share that with you as soon as I have it. What we're working on also is a memorandum of understanding with the foundation that outlines the roles and responsibilities of each organization. And legal counsel looked over the initial draft that was developed by Mr. Palmer and Foundation President Lopez, and I'm sorry, Ortiz.
Ortiz, yeah, thank you.
And made some changes and updates to that, and then it will go to the foundation board at their meeting this week for their discussion and approval. And once they are satisfied with it, it will come to the commission for its discussion and approval. So that's where we are right now with all of that, and I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
I appreciate the update. I'm sorry if I was unclear on this. Is the legal team going to provide us with a more formal statement around this? Because I know this was a concern that Commissioner Engbarth had.
Yes, they are working on that now.
Okay, good. Questions from the committee? Okay, so Ann, I'm I'm taking from this that the legal team has reviewed the memorandum of understanding that will be going to the foundation board this week,
Mm-hmm.
and the revised and hopefully approved memorandum of understanding will be coming before the full commission on June 6th, along with a more formal statement from our attorneys.
That is correct.
Right. Okay, good. Great. Thank you very much. I'm really glad to hear that. And Craig, I can see you there. I'm glad that you're going to be able to continue to work closely with Sarah and the foundation board. I think it's really important for the library.
Absolutely my pleasure. They're an inspiration to work with.
Anything you want to add about this process that to what Ann has already said?
No, other than the fact that I reviewed again that MOU with all of the feedback from everybody with Sarah again late last week, who was completely amenable to it. And she's actually already forwarded it to the board so that this Wednesday they can have a good discussion about it. And she is, we're looking forward for candid feedback, but optimistically.
Okay, well, thank you. Thanks for what you're doing and look forward to hearing about the reaction from the foundation board. Okay, we're going to move on to the next agenda item. The framework for CalPERS additional discretionary payments and funding options. We haven't had any additional discussion on this in the intervening time, Myrna, and that's been my fault as I've kind of pushed this to the back burner while we're approving the budget. Have you done anything in addition around the additional discretionary payments, or should we just defer this to next month's discussion?
I think here I wanted to discuss, I guess that we separated the two items, 4.6 and 4.7.
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't have done that. Yeah.
No, I don't have any additional information. I think really I'm looking for direction on how to proceed with the commission so that we can then have a clearer direction for what the next steps are.
I think what I'm going to do with as the chair's prerogatives, I'm going to jump down to 4.7 and then come back to this, because I did want to talk briefly, Barbara, about the message, the information that you had shared. I don't know if you picked that off of the Facebook page from the city of Roanoke Park or somewhere, but I want to come back to that. I just wanted to talk briefly. We do have the Bartels Report, and it needs to be shared with and accepted by the full commission. When we met last month, we agreed as a committee, and I felt there was pretty strong sentiment from everybody that you did not want Bartels to be presenting the report. The plan as it is now is that the report will be included in the commission packet for June 6th. And Myrna and I are going to work together on a short summary presentation to highlight the key information. The question that came up as she and I were discussing this is, did you want or would you like somebody from Bartel to be available to answer questions from the commission? Or would you not feel that that is essential? I just will open it up and take any comments.
Well, okay.
Go ahead, Dave.
I don't feel that a presentation by Bartel would help the commission to increase its understanding of this rather opaque area. And I hope that we can rely on Myrna and her presentations, both in the past and I'm sure in the future, to clarify our real options. Also, I don't want to pay for it. I'm sure that Bartel will charge us for presenting, and I'm not sure it's going to add value.
Well, let me clarify. I'm sorry if I was not clear. We're not going to have them present. The question is just, should we have them there to field questions, or do you feel comfortable that Myrna and I will be able to field any questions from the commission.
And it's already part of the agreement with them.
Yeah, so they're not going to charge us extra to show up. I mean, they may be bent out of shape that they're there and not presenting, but I don't really care about that. My question is just, do you want them there or not, Barbara?
Well, we're not quite sure what we're going to actually say, right? Because we haven't done 4.6. So I think that a nice, clear presentation from our CFO and your involvement, Andy. And then if there are any questions, we can always invite them back to another meeting. I don't think they need to be there for the first meeting. And then, of course, with this discussion we need to have, I guess, at the next time, which is where we're talking about, setting up a trust fund or whether doing additional payments, that's the more important question that has to be answered first before we make a presentation. And then I have, of course, my separate question that we're going to discuss offline, which is, have we paid down the liability that we had on the books when, the year we got Measure Y passed. So these are all things that are, to me, the critical points that have to be addressed before we kind of talk about how we present it. But I don't think we have to have them there the first time, no.
Okay, and just to be clear, again, the plan for, and Tom, I see you have a hand up, but the plan for June 6th is not that Myrna and I are going to be asking the board or the commission to approve additional discretionary payments. The focus is going to be on understanding the current situation based on the analysis that Bartel did. As part of that, we will raise the future possibility of making additional discretionary payments and indicate that we will be discussing that in this committee and coming back to the full commission with a recommendation. But the focus for June 6th is simply to make sure that the full commission sees and accepts the two Bartel reports. That's all. But I'm taking it from you that you don't feel like Bartel will be needed to answer questions about that. Tom, I see you have a hand up.
I think somebody needs to make some kind of synopsis, a couple of pages to explain their mess.
Well, that's what we're going to have. Our goal is to do basically 10 slides. And we're going to try to acknowledge the detailed analysis and actuarial investigation that they've undertaken without attempting to explain how that work is done, other than to say that we have confidence that they've done it correctly. But in terms of explaining the big picture, that's what we're going to try to do, is to present the kind of a quick view of how we got to where we are, and what the potential paths forward are. Is that in line with what you'd like to see?
That's as good a plan as we have. I mean, they were very confusing and too many slides and too much this and that and everything else. It really isn't easy to understand. And they,
Right.
I guess if you're an actuary, it was obvious.
Right.
Understood. Thank you. Deborah, I see you have a hand up.
I do. Thank you very much in advance to you and Myrna for putting together an understandable presentation about it. And I do not think that we need them to answer questions at that presentation. Certainly, as you say, we can invite them in if there are multiple questions, or we can get them offline for them or invite them to the Finance Committee. But thank you very much for both of you for tackling this.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm gonna conclude that we will not invite Bartel. Myrna, you and I will have to meet offline, obviously, to take care of this. But I did want to acknowledge I probably should have caught this in the agenda, and I apologize, that we will during the course of the presentation, we will obviously have to discuss the issue of unfunded liability and what the options are. And the options, as we've already discussed, are to do nothing and hope for the best, or to make one or more additional discretionary payments either directly to CalPERS or through the process of setting up a 115 trust. We're not going to get into the details and advantages, disadvantages, comparison of one or the other. We're simply going to introduce the topic and expect that it's going to take a number of months to progressively educate the commission to the point where everybody feels comfortable making a decision on that. That said, Barbara, I really appreciated the email that you forwarded to me. It was very short. Do you happen to have it, or do you recall the specifics of what you shared, or do you want me to pull it up?
I think what you're talking about is a screenshot I took off Facebook, and this was the city of Santa Rosa. This is not Runner Park, but this Chris Rogers, the mayor of Santa Rosa, put something up on Facebook about their approving a Section 115 trust and funding it with $34.6 million. Again, this is just CalPERS. And one point I wanted to make when you're talking about this presentation is that that Bartel gave us two reports. One was on OPEB and one was on CalPERS. There's two different liabilities.
Right.
And so I don't know if you're planning on addressing those separately in separate presentations to the commission, but it's part of the confusion I think people have. And it's, I don't know if you're going to do just CalPERS this first time, to just make it clear that we'll have another one on OPEB.
We'll take a look at that because I don't want to let that drop. But yeah, you're absolutely right. There were, of course, two reports. And I'm just going to read. Thank you, by the way, for spotting this. I'm going to read this screenshot that you sent. It's from Chris Rogers. He said, last night, we approved a Section 115 trust fund to pre-fund and stabilize the city's pension system. This year, we are paying $34.6 million for our unfunded annual liability, the shortfall in what we owe for benefits promised to retired employees. That's money we would otherwise be using on services across our city. Our UAL, that's unfunded annual liability number, will continue to grow for a few more years until the PEPRA reforms bring the city closer to fully funded status. And we saw that in the report as well. The 115 trust will allow us predictability in our budgeting and is looked upon very favorably by bond rating agencies, ultimately saving taxpayer dollars. He goes on to say, we seeded the fund with $10 million from the PG&E settlement funds and will redirect our $2.6 million annual pension obligation bond payment into the 115 trust when the bond is fully paid off in 2024. That has to do with bond issues that are not part of what we're involved with. But I thought it was a very nice statement about the benefits of a 115 trust. We'll obviously get into that in more detail later, but I appreciate your guidance. I do have one question about the date and time of the next meeting. First of all, it says here June 20th. I don't think that's correct. I think the next meeting was scheduled for June 27th because of Juneteenth. But regardless, I'm going to be unavailable on both of those dates. I'll be out of the country from June 8th to July 2nd. So we have a couple of options. First of all, Jen, let me just ask you, so at least we're agreeing on the options correctly. Is June 27th the actual date of the scheduled Finance Committee meeting?
That is correct. I apologize for that mistake.
Yeah, no worries. So here are the options. Option one is Finance Committee meets as scheduled on June 27th, and I will not be there. Option number two is we look to schedule a Finance Committee meeting for the week of July 4th, before the full commission meeting on July 11th. Option three is we do not have a Finance Committee meeting for the month of June. Before I ask you to weigh in, Myrna, from your perspective as the CFO, do you feel strongly one way or the other about whether we need to have a finance committee meeting for the month of June?
I don't think I don't think it'll be a problem for not having a meeting in June. Definitely your July meeting, and if you hold a meeting, that you could hold the June meeting the first week of July, that's also very helpful. So there's no problem with postponing it to the first week of July or not holding a meeting in June. So we could wait till July. We'll be working on year-end closing matters. So holding a meeting at the end of June and is for your guidance. I think you've seen where we're headed, where we will be within budget. I haven't heard any major concerns. So we're on target to meeting our obligations for year end.
Okay, thank you. So I'll turn to the committee. What are your feelings? Deborah? You're on mute.
Just wanted to let people know that I will also not be there on the 27th. I'm going to be at the American Library Association conference in Washington.
Okay, so I'm going to say that option is off the table. So then the question is just, do we schedule a meeting for the first week in July, or do we just skip the meeting altogether? Barbara, Dave, Tom, how do you feel? Oh, Deborah, but
I'd prefer to skip it altogether because I know Myrna and her team are going to be busy with closing entries, and the year will just have closed, and I would prefer just to skip the meeting.
okay. Deborah, I skipped over you. What's your thought?
I'd skip it. I'd suggest skipping it as well.
Okay. Barbara and Tom, do you have objections if we skip the next meeting?
I'm going to be out of the country also. So,
Okay, I think that makes it very simple.
Well, David, you and I should meet and do something.
Right, stage a coup. Mhm.
Yeah.
There you go.
So let me ask this then. I believe that since the 4th of July is obviously a holiday, and the commission meeting is the 11th, normally we would have the finance committee meeting 2 weeks later on the 25th. I'm thinking maybe the 18th of July, just 1 week after the commission meeting, would be the time to have it. Thoughts on that? First of all, will everybody be in the country on the 18th?
Well,
Barbara?
I will be.
I will not be in the country. I will be in the country for July 25th. Let me add
okay.
another little interesting spin on this is that my seat in Rohnert Park will be reappointed. I found out sometime in July. And so it's very possible if I'm not reappointed to this position, I am going to apply, but if I'm not reappointed, I wouldn't, after the July 11th meeting, not necessarily, be a member of the committee. So I hope I am, but anyway, just to know that. But so I would be in favor of meeting on July 25th if I'm still a commissioner.
Okay. Does the 25th work for, as far as you know, for Deborah, Tom, Dave?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to suggest that we schedule the date and time of the next meeting for Monday, July 25th at 3. And didn't quite make it in an hour, but thanks to everybody's preparation and thanks to the expert leadership of our CFO, Myrna Lopez, we are adjourned at 4:04.
Good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Andy.
Take
Thanks,
care.
everybody.
Thanks a lot.